Hey everyone, and welcome to Hero's Journey Physio Fitness. Our mission is guiding people to reclaim their health and become self-reliant. I'm your host, Dr. Cameron Hogue, and joining me is my co-host, Annabelle Rios.
We're going live in 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, we had another episode. I know you had to wait a little bit this time. You got to keep them waiting, wanting more. Today's a special episode.
Keep them wanting.
Keep them wanting. We're going to do a deep dive in something that we've mentioned before to you guys many, many moons ago at the beginning, at the inception of Hero's Journey.
I almost thought you were going to say conception.
Oh, my God.
At the consummation.
And you may have missed it, especially if you're a newer listener, I think it's the only principle you need to follow for health and fitness. I think a lot of times it's all overcomplicated. Here's a thing you need to do. Here's a thing you should follow. We are trying to simplify it
I think this
as best as possible.
I think this can transform your health and fitness journey. Not because of the power itself, but it's very easy to follow. If you can remember what we're about to tell you, which we kind of designed it to where it's easy to remember, then all you got to do is just show up and put in the effort.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, most of the time, I don't know why this is. I'm sure you probably think, when it comes to health and fitness, people start debating different things, whether the right way to eat, the right way to train. But they don't do that when it comes to the way they're living their life. You don't see them, now which donut's actually worse for me? But they'll say, no, you shouldn't eat fruit. It has too much sugar.
Yeah.
So anyways, stop doing that. What's the principle, Doc? What's it called? What are we naming it?
So it's pretty simple. We just call it the 3, 2, 1 principle. Everyone's like, that was it.
Touching.
Dun, 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 dun. But I think if you can remember 3, 2, 1, and then what those numbers mean.
Similar to like we are going live in 3, 2, 1.
Annabelle was singing it just a second ago. He's like, 3, 2, 1 principle. We're going live in 3, 2. But again, with a principle though, this is not a rule. We're not saying this is the only way. We're speaking very generally here. There's always exceptions to the rule. The principle is just a guiding way of trying to organize your health and fitness journey here.
Yeah, this is probably more so for the everyday person.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. You can go on to the extremes where someone would not need to follow something like this. And we're not talking to those people. You do need something probably more specific. But if you do look at most programs out there, at least the good ones, they're going to have something like this. And this is just what we have decided is what we like to follow. And I don't even know if we've made it up. There could be something out there that came up with this before us. We're not claiming rights on this. This is just the principle we follow.
Trademark pending, 3, 2, 1 principle.
Yeah, that's true. We probably need to get on that. Someone's going to steal it from us, Annabelle.
I know.
So what does the 3, 2, 1 principle mean, Annabelle?
So we kind of have like a foundation for this. And I think when we initially were talking, it's like everything's so complicated, everything's so complex. We need to keep it as simple as possible for everyone to get started and get moving, because that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter, get moving. So the first one is you need to exercise, specifically lift 3 times a week.
That's what the 3 stands for.
The 3 stands for
3 days of resistance training.
Training. Keyword, training. We have a whole episode on training, guys.
Check it out.
So I guess why are we saying resistance training, Cam?
Well, let's tell them what the 2 and the 1 mean too. And then
I guess we're getting ahead. I got ahead. Oh, sorry. We'll give you a big picture overview, and then we'll do a little deep dive. The other 2 is 2 days of cardio. And the last one, this one's debated by a lot of people of how much protein should I eat. We think go with 1. Regardless of, it can vary, but just stick with 1 gram per pound of desired body weight.
The key one is that is desired body weight. 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight. And we're going to dive into each one of those three here. But the first one is the 3 days of resistance training. Why do resistance training?
I think it's one of the best things you can do. We've talked about it in the other episodes about creating lasting habits and how exercising, but we want to call it training, is one of the best things you can do. It's going to lead to so many other positive things in your life once you start lifting.
Yeah, it's a keystone habit.
It's a keystone habit, yeah. And I guess more on the medical side of what it's actually doing, Doc. What are some of the benefits that you see?
I've got some quotes here. One's from a research article, and then one's from Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. We'll link her website in the show notes. But I really liked how she summarized this, and it's pretty spot on. So I'm just going to read from her here, and she said, "If your muscles are strong, you live better. Not only can you help your friends move heavy things to their homes when they ask, but having increased muscle compared to fat has profound implications for your metabolic function. Muscle is the metabolic sink of the body. It determines almost everything about your body composition and overall health, how it regulates your blood sugar, your ability to manage fats, and your fuel during times of illness. Most health issues confronting adults are not a result of being quote-unquote over fat, but being quote-unquote under-muscled. It's more than just looking good in a bathing suit. Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and many other chronic health problems begin with inactive muscles and poor metabolisms. Muscles also serve as our amino acid reservoir. In times of stress, your body can draw on muscles to protect your vital organs like the liver, kidney, and brain. There are 2 ways to stimulate and protect muscle. One is through diet, and the other through resistance training, end quote. And I think that just perfectly summarized everything we're trying to talk about here. And it hits on, obviously, the diet part, which we'll talk about here in a second with the protein. But the big thing that she said was, and she said training, not exercise, resistance training. A lot of these issues are actually due to people being weak and fat, but being under-muscled versus just being fat.
I would say in most cases, it's kind of, if you're fat, you're most likely not lifting. If you're lifting, you can be a big old boy, talking about the power lifters, but most of the time,
and that is better. Being fat and strong is better than being fat and weak.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like, well, that it's just true.
Yeah, you can't go wrong being strong.
Yeah, and we will work on some of that body weight and everything, but it is better if you had to choose to be fat and strong versus fat and weak. I mean, it's true.
It's true.
But another thing on why we need to focus on the muscle, and that's what we're specifically talking about when we're talking about resistance training, is building muscle, building strength, all this kind of stuff, is because, and why it should be our goal, is because of what's called sarcopenia, which is the losing of muscle mass as we age. So here's a quote from this research article. It says, one of the most striking effects of age is the involuntary loss of muscle mass, strength, and function, termed sarcopenia. Muscle mass decreases approximately 3 to 8% per decade after the age of 30, and this rate of decline is even higher after the age of 60. So think about this. From the age of 30, and we're just going to round up to maybe 10% because that's a more easy number here. From 30 to 60 years old, you're going to lose roughly 30% of your muscle.
Wow.
Due to just involuntary. Now you can fight against that. You can do so, and you can still gain muscle in your 30s and 40s and everything. But left to your own devices, the body is going to start the process of sarcopenia. It's involuntary unless you're fighting against it. And then it gets even higher after the age 60. So I'm assuring that 3 to 8%, which we rounded to 10, will be double that probably.
Wow.
Which is
that is wild, man.
Which is pretty crazy. So it's not just about losing the fat and just doing cardio and that's what I need to do. No, you need to start lifting weights. That's why it's the 3 and not the 2 or the 1. Like we need to do more of that than the others
Mm-hmm.
because it is so important for preventing loss of muscle mass and helping our metabolism and all that kind of stuff.
You know, gosh, it's like one of those things that you wish you knew how important it was. Because there's a lot of people who are either trying to find like the path or where to start. This is a good place to start.
Oh, it
Is
definitely
lifting
is.
weights.
And here's another crazy statistic here. So this is from Dr. Peter Attia. What he has found in his research and everything is when comparing, and they're talking about muscle, but more specifically strength. And we do know that in a way that muscle size follows strength. Like you're not just gonna have huge muscles if you're weak and all that kind of stuff. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But low strength versus high strength people, he found that having low strength increases what we call the all causes of mortality by 200 and 250%. Not like 10%, not 40%, not 60%, 250% when comparing someone who's weak and has no muscle compared to someone who is strong and has muscle.
Goodness gracious! I think when we were first looking at these numbers, I was just stunned.
I didn't even believe it.
That can't be, can it?
Because if you look at smoking, like smoking cigarettes, it is said to have an increased risk of all cause of mortality by 40%. So just think about that. Smoking increases your chance at any given moment that you could die from any given cause by 40%. But being weak compared to people who are strong is 250%.
So smoke.
So bust out the...
So be a big boy, but you make sure you lift heavy, and then you can smoke your cigar.
Annabelle, what is the other Peter Attia quote from his?
We're a big fan. I love his work. Here's a quote. All right. It's from his book, Outlive. It says, exercise is by far the most potent longevity drug. The data are ambiguous. Exercise not only delays actual deaths, but also prevents both cognitive and physical decline better than any other intervention. It is the single most potent tool we have in the health span enhancing toolkit, and that includes nutrition, sleeps, and medications.
That is crazy. So he's basically saying that it is the best tool to have to increase the amount of time that you'll live on this earth and the quality of that life, more so than nutrition, sleep, and meds.
Boom. Not to say, because then people are going to say, hey,
I thought nutrition was 90. We're not saying that.
it is important. But most of you can't. It's like I speak from experience. Like you get so lost in trying to pick the right nutrition, which is a key, where you can benefit so much by just starting to lift weights.
So, because the nutrition and sleep and all those things are so important, what we're saying and what we believe Dr. Peter Attia is saying is the reason why it is not just nutrition and not just exercise is because you need both of them and everything, but the exercise or the training helps to build muscle, and the muscle is what they're saying is the most important part. That muscle and strength is what are bigger predictors, what help like we said earlier with your organs and your metabolism, more so than just nutrition alone.
Yeah, and it's like a whole holistic approach.
Exactly.
This is not gonna capture every single thing that's out there, but this is gonna be a good basis, more like a North Star to guide you on your journey.
Exactly. And I do think if you start lifting, you're going to want to start eating better. You're like, well, if I'm doing all this work, I need to start fueling my body, you know? Well, if I'm doing all this, I really need to get the right recovery so that I'm able to do these lifts and being able to interact with my environment and my family and all that kind of stuff.
That's why it's a great habit to build.
Exactly. So why 3 days a week? Mainly, we think 3 days a week is the sweet spot.
Yes. I think sometimes people do too many days, and then you need to give your body adequate time to recover as well.
Right.
In between.
So why 3 days? As Annabelle said, I think it's doable for the common person. It's like that sweet spot, the Goldilocks. Like if you do less than 3 days, you're probably not going to be getting the most benefit. It's better than nothing. If you do more than that, it's great. It's good. I don't think most people have time the average person to get in the gym like Schwarzenegger 5 to 6 days a week, couple times a day, all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
multiple times a day. Yeah, you can do that.
So we think it's doable. As Annabelle said, it gives adequate recovery between sessions. Check out episode 40. We talk more about the stress recovery adaptation cycle. But lifting the 3 days, you'd be able to do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, not even have to worry about it on the weekends. And you get those days of recovery in between. And also 3 days, we think it's great for compound lifts. Like you're not going to overtax your body by working out 6 days a week, doing squats, 5 times during that week, or doing all these heavy lifts and not giving your body enough time to recover. That's great for some people. And, we're not talking to you.
Yeah, we're not talking to athletes. We're not talking to someone who is trying to compete.
Bodybuilders.
On a bodybuilder. We're just talking to the everyday person who wants to not only extend the length of their life, but their quality of their lives.
So I think we've hit the 3 days of resistance training pretty hard, why you should do it.
Oh, yeah. And then I think we said that. But during those 3 days, try to prioritize compound lifts.
Right.
All right. What's the next one, Doc?
Okay, so that was the 3. The 2 is 2 days of cardio. And we got some things to say on this because we've had other episodes about the power of walking and all that kind of stuff. But here's what we recommend. We actually got this from one of our guests in our podcast who is a strength and conditioning coach. He talked about, trying to get 1 day of what's called LISS training, which is low intensity steady state. Think about climbing on the treadmill, going for a long hike or ruck, going for a jog, bike ride. You're just doing something for a longer period of time, but it's low intensity. Like you're still going to sweat and stuff, but you can perform this activity for 20, 30, 40, 60, 2 hours, however long you're training or whatever. So that's LISS. And then the other one is HIIT, high intensity interval training. If you can get one of each of those in a week, that would be fantastic for your cardiovascular health. Because not only are you going to push yourself really hard one of those sessions with the HIIT, but then you can kind of get that more long duration, that type of what's the word I'm working for? Energy production in terms of like using our oxidative system versus like phosphorylate or glycolytic system.
I think we were talking about this. Like, okay, so all right, guys, I started lifting weights. I now want to. I don't have time to maybe do both. Which one would you say should be prioritized? The HIIT or the LISS?
If it's a time issue, do the HIIT because that's high intensity. You're not going to be able to go for very long, not more than 5 to 20 minutes. If you're doing longer than 20 minutes on a HIIT training, you're not going as high as intensity as you need to be going. Mm-hmm. So if you're on a time crunch, man, grab an assault bike, start banging out some intervals on that, like, or a rower or whatever, sled. Those are great. But maybe it depends on phase of life. So maybe you are going to go on a walk with your family and you're like, well, let me grab a weighted vest, or let's make it a hike. Like whatever, like it depends on your state of what you need, but I would say maybe prioritize the HIIT first over the LISS, or we can talk about some walking.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was getting at. It's like maybe you get in your head, because it's easy from a scheduling standpoint, but actually doing, goodness gracious,
it sucks.
You kind of like you question life a little bit, like what's happening?
I'm just contemplating everything.
And in the last episode, Cam was torturing this poor old lady on an assault bike.
Oh yeah, she needed it.
But we've talked about walking, and we have a whole episode on it, the power of walking. It's really honestly good for you. Yeah,
so maybe that is one where you just need to get your steps in every day. And that's the best that you can do at this point. Like you can't spend an hour on the treadmill or on a bike or whatever, and then maybe you don't have access to the equipment, whatever the reason might be. Maybe it just needs to be getting your steps in. Yeah, and that is good too.
Yeah, just get moving,
So with cardio, we can talk about the benefits, and everybody knows the benefits of doing cardio, blah, blah, blah. But there's this really good book that I read in physical therapy school because I was a nerd, and on top of my studying and textbooks, I liked to read. So it was called Spark. It's like there's another part to it. I think the revolutionary new science of exercise in the brain. It's by Dr. John Ratty. I highly recommend reading this book. It's fantastic. But from the book, he lists some benefits of cardio, and then the last two on here I really want to focus on. But obviously, some of the benefits of cardio that he has found in his research is obviously it improves the cardiovascular system, which can decrease your chance of heart disease, which is the number one killer of Americans. It can regulate fuel, like what you intake in terms of your food and your nutrition. It reduces obesity. Obviously, you're burning calories, stuff like that. It elevates your stress threshold because, cardio is a stressful event. It allows your body to adapt to that. It can lift your mood. And I can say from experience, the runner's high, and after you kind of get the endorphins going on a run, like you feel fantastic. Like
Don't you just love life?
It feels great. It also boosts your immune system. Like I don't think I like the year that I did just cardio straight, which I'm not recommending. I don't think I got sick. I think I was running and doing so much stuff that my immune system was top notch.
Wasn't that also the year of COVID? Right? 2020? Isn't that when you were running?
Yeah, kind of bleeding into 2020, 2019 to 2020.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I did get COVID that year, so maybe it didn't boost it too much.
But it was after you stopped running, though.
Yeah, of course. It fortifies your bones because of all the impact and everything like that. It boosts motivation. That kind of ties into the mood and everything. These last two is what I really want to focus on, which is what was talked about the most in his book, is that cardio fosters what's called neuroplasticity. So in school, what we were learning in our neuro class is, number one, and when it comes to the brain, we are cavemen. We know a little bit, but it's so complex and in depth. Like we still haven't explored the depths of the mind and the brain. But one thing we have been learning in the research is what this thing called neuroplasticity. We used to think that the brain after you developed was not plastic, meaning it couldn't be molded. So
it was just fit at that point.
It was fixed. So if something happened, injury to the head, stroke, all that kind of stuff, whatever, that it is what it is. Now what we're finding is that the brain will find a way. It will find new synapses so that neurons that fire together wire together. So they start to find a way around, like maybe this part of the brain was damaged or whatever. The brain's might try and find another way around. And they found that cardio actually fosters an environment for the brain to want to do that, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
And it also fights against neurodegeneration, Alzheimer's. I would even say like Parkinson, like any type of neuro condition that's going to affect the chemicals or the structures in the brain. This can fight against that.
I think I was hearing like Dr. Andrew Huberman talking about that. A lot of people think for like brain health that it's like, oh, you should just do crossword puzzles and do this, and not that those don't help, but this is showing that it can help potentially even more. So
there was also, and I cannot for the life of me, I think it was called like brain derived neurotropic something. There's this chemical in the brain that if you do cardio and then you go to try and learn something, like you sit down and study, it actually allows the brain to make those synapses stronger. So like once learning that, like before I'd get home from school and I would go on a run and then I would start studying because of this book.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that's the reason why I passed and everything, but because of this book, I started doing that.
I wonder if it's similar to, like, for instance, for me, like whenever I need to like really focus or do something, like I prefer to be like in a fasted state. Mm-hmm. I'm just like sharper. I can think better.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why I believe some people feel so good exercising first thing in the morning and then starting their work. Like you hear a lot of entrepreneurs, they'll exercise and then they'll get into like a deep state of like working. And I would say that this is probably part of that is because the cardio or the exercise or whatever is giving an environment that allows the brain to
kind of caveman mind.
Yeah, that caveman
mind. I'm hungry.
Animal need fire. And then the other big things he talked about in his book is cardio can help balance neurochemicals that help with like ADHD, depression, anxiety, addiction, Like he recommends before he ever prescribes medication to his clients who are suffering from some of these things, he says, okay, I want you to
Take a hike.
I want you to go on a run. Like seriously, go hike, go run.
Wow.
And he actually promotes that first. Obviously, some people don't do that before he prescribes any medication for some of those things. And the book is like story after story of how people like, man, like my anxiety went away, my ADHD went away, like all this type of stuff from just doing cardio. And the book was specifically cardio, but I'm sure there's some overlap between that and resistance training and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the overall principle. You need to do your cardio. That is,
It's crazy.
I'm glad that he was doing that. I think a lot of the time, this is completely sidetracked. The solution for a lot of modern healthcare, which I'm so glad that we have this, is medications.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I'm thankful. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not anti-medication. But we should try to find an alternative solution first.
Absolutely.
And I love that. Like, that's awesome.
So those are some pretty cool benefits of cardio that are not just in terms of body composition and the heart. Like there's some brain stuff going on too with doing some cardio training. So hopefully that made you want to do some cardio now for other reasons. So what's the last one, Annabelle? What's the one?
All right. The one, not that it's any less important, but it's 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight.
All right. Why protein? Proteins are the building block of your body. Pretty much all lean, meaning non-fat tissue, is made up and composed of protein. So I would say because of that, it has to be the most important macronutrient. Like your body isn't made of carbohydrates. Your body is made of some fats, obviously, but most of your organs and structures in your body are made up of amino acids. So,
and most people do not consume enough protein.
They do not. So you're not getting enough of the thing that composes most of your body.
I would say primarily it's fats and carbs.
I would agree. Yeah. Even if you go out to eat, you can order. The most expensive thing is always the protein option, and it's always like 4 to 6 ounces. Like you need 8 to 10.
Man, even
16.
when you get food, any kind of food, let's say they give you rice and some sort of protein, it is like 90% rice and then like 10% protein. You're like, what the heck?
It's scattered.
I know what they're doing. They're trying to fill you up on rice because it's cheaper. They won't get me though.
So proteins help with some of the following, which we already talked about with Dr. Lyon, because she talked about muscle and everything, and obviously muscle is composed of proteins and everything. But proteins help with obviously tissue structure, the hormone system, the metabolic system, the transport system, enzymes that regulate your metabolism, in balancing the acid-base environment. They are so important for life, essentially.
Protein is life.
Protein is life. We need a shirt, trademark pending.
We do.
Call it times infinity. Okay, but sometimes this is hard. So like we know, and everyone knows, I need to eat some lean meats. I know I might need to eat some legumes and lentils and beans if you're more on the vegetarian or vegan side of things. Like we know those things you got to cook up. But Annabelle, let's talk to them about what are some easy protein options or snacks that can help them hit that 1 gram of desired body weight.
There are a lot of options. And I think as you're starting to stack, because a lot of these are going to be stacked, you want to seek the path of least resistance. We've talked about it in our habits episode. You want to have a giant tub of protein powder that's to your back.
Don't bring that up.
No, I'm kidding. But I would say a protein shake. That is the easiest way to get protein into your life. And if you've never done anything else, just start with that. Get you some milk, get you some protein powder, and you can get 40, 50, 60. You can get a lot of grams of protein in like one fell swoop.
Absolutely. Greek yogurt's another easy one. Obviously, some of these have dairy in it, so I'm not trying to exclude you non-dairy people. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, there's dairy-free options, right?
There's probably some
dairy-free options,
yeah.
Or lactose if you're maybe it's the lactose that gets you.
Right. So Greek yogurt's an easy one. Beef jerky. I mean, if you find a clean brand that doesn't have nitrates and stuff in it, beef jerky's a great option.
Oh, I love beef jerky. It's really good.
What are some other ones?
Nuts. So there's a lot of nuts out there there's almonds, there's pistachios, and you just gotta find the one that you like and works for you. I'm sorry if you have a nut allergy, but
Yeah. Milk is another good one. It's got it's got good source of carbs, fats, and protein. Again, there's a Fairlife. If it's lactose, that's lactose free. And actually can be fortified with more protein.
This is not a paid ad. We're not paid by Fairlife.
Yeah.
But I drink Fairlife. It's good.
It is good.
It's some good milk. Eggs.
Eggs are good.
Eggs are great, and they're cheap.
And low calorie.
And low calorie, man, you can easily get your protein that way.
Some cottage cheese is a good option. It might be it's not my preferred option, but I could get into it. I just do the Greek yogurt more than cottage cheese. But
yeah, these are just when we sat down, we're like, okay, what are some quick and easy options that either requires no cooking or very minimal cooking? Really, that's what we're getting into. It's like milk is no cooking. The only one you might have to cook is like, okay, you have to maybe cook an egg.
Yeah.
Unless you want to do the old Rocky style and you crack the egg in a glass and just throw it back.
Ooh. Sounds like salmonella's next door. And peanut butter. Peanut butter is a great one. I think more of an all-natural would be probably better than some of the ones that have a bunch of added sugars and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's options out there.
Read the labels. We got an episode on that.
Just go back and listen to episode
Go back and listen to all of our episodes.
Into this episode.
That's right. So with the whole 1 gram thing, Annabelle says, obviously it's debatable. That is something to strive for, but it's varied, based on the individual. We do know that women need less protein than men. That research kind of shows that's like 0.6 to 0.8. Men can be upwards of 0.8 to 1.2, I believe, is some of the numbers. So the sweet spot being about 1. We know that obese or overweight individuals should not eat their body weight in protein. If you're 300 pounds, it'll be a chore to get 300 grams of protein in there.
It is hard to overeat protein.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
So that is more like if you're 300 pounds and you want to be 180, then do your desired body weight, not just your body weight. So that might be.
You feel like you're going to bust if you eat that much. Man, I've tried it once when I was trying to eat like over 200 grams. I was like, it's getting hard to breathe. I'm having a protein baby.
So there are some people this isn't for. You just need to know yourself, and
seriously,
you can always talk to a nutritionist, have a coach, all that kind of stuff to help guide you on your journey here.
Yeah. Like, what's your goal? What are you after? For sure.
But we really do believe that this principle will transform your health and fitness journey. You just got to remember 3 days of training, 2 days of cardio. 1 gram of protein per desired body weight.
It's so simple.
It's simple,
and you're gonna question it. I know I would have a few years ago. I think, that can't be it. It's too simple. But it's simple, but it's hard to do.
Yes,
but it works.
So what do we want them to do, Annabelle?
So there's a lot of things that you can probably start doing, and I know some of you are like, well, I can start with this, start with that. We know Keystone Habits. We have a whole episode on them. One of them is exercise. But we think you should start lifting as the preferred method of training. Because it's going to have to trickle down effect. As you start lifting, as you start going 3 days a week, you're naturally going to want to add protein. You're going to want to add some more cardio. It just happens. So we want this to be your focus for now. We want you to do all of them. But for now, start with this.
Yes. Well, that's all that I got, Annabelle.
That's all I got, Doc.
Guys, just remember that you are human. You should not seek perfection, but daily improvement.
See you guys.
See ya.